Tolec, how are you doing?
I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, you're coming through loud and clear. I guess for the people that don't know too much about you, give us a little short breakdown of who you are.
All right. Well, I'm a 3D person, like you guys are.
Of course.
Yeah. So I live on this planet up until the end of December of 2011. I had a full-time job like a lot of other people, worked 10, 11 hours a day, had a 30-year career, most recently as a chief operating officer in a smaller firm that I was with. And I've been doing this Tolec work full-time and then some. Again, like 11, 12 hours a day for the past few months. It's been nonstop since January. And in terms of the Andromeda Council kind of connection, reintroduction, back in the late summer of 1993, I was contacted telepathically late night. I was sleeping in bed, and I was given some instructions to drive south. I live in southern Arizona, so I was being given instructions to get in my car, drive south on I-10, then to I-19, and to go off into the desert in the area of the San Javier Mission. And I received this telepathic communication from a man who I know today as the commander of an Andromeda Council biosphere. And so 4:30, I think 4:15, 4:20, 4:30 in the morning, I finally got down there, pulled off the road, followed this sort of like dirt road off into the desert, and I went over this kind of like last little rise, and there's this disc-shaped scout craft, I want to say like 35 feet or so in diameter, and there's this guy he seemed to be about 6'4", maybe 6'3", 6'4", one-piece jumpsuit, waving at me and motioning me to come to the craft. And I hopped out of my vehicle and I'm like, "Hey, wow, good to see you. Long time no see." He goes, "Come on, we got to go. Hurry up." I'm like, No, it's really good to see you." And he's like, "Will you come on?" I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "It's going to be daylight soon. You're not that far off the highway. People will be able to see us." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I get on his craft and we take a trip back in time to, I'm not sure if it was Western Kentucky, West Virginia, but to the time of like the 1840s. So I took this trip with him 3 separate times on 3 separate trips. For each trip, we went back in time, and we watched this family of 4 go about their daily lives. It was a mom and a dad in their, I want to say he was in his early 30s, she was in her late 20s, and they had a couple of kids. A boy that was around 8 or 9 years old, and a young girl, a daughter that was 3 or 4 years old. And during the last trip, watching them from the craft, the monitor screens in the craft, we watched a barn fire on the property. And the family was frantic because they couldn't find their daughter. And they came to find out that the daughter was in the fire and she died from smoke inhalation. And of course this was this father's cherished little girl, and he of course the whole family was deep in grief over the subject. And I asked this gentleman, the commander of the biosphere, why did he choose this one event to show me? What was significant about this event? Was I related to these people at all? Well, I learned that in some fashion, my own ancestry, I was related to them, but that really wasn't the issue. The issue was, for the most part, the people who live in the higher dimensions, 4th dimension, 5th, to say that they are spiritually evolved would be redundant. They are much more emotionally evolved than we are. They're much more balanced than we are. Moreover, people in the higher dimensions, 4th and up, they don't experience death. And so, and I can get into some of that later, but in short, when a fourth dimensional person gets to the point where they're ready to complete their fourth dimensional life, their fourth dimensional body doesn't die. They simply choose to make a decision to vibrate as a fifth dimensional person and learn new experiences. Because people don't die in the fourth dimension, fifth and up, this gentleman, the commander, wanted to understand what we felt, what I felt as a member of the human community, watching a family lose one of their children to death. And it's a tragic experience for any family. But he wanted to see my reaction. He wanted to understand my own reaction and watch my grief in the process so that they could better understand who we are as three-dimensional humans, how we tick, how we function, and to some degree, why we get so emotional over the concept of death. So that was my very first physical contact with anybody from the Andromeda Council. And I distinctly remember, and this part of the experience has always kind of made me chuckle. I distinctly remember that he offered me, I need to back up. Every time I took this trip, he had to give me a pill to temporarily bump up as an adjustment the vibration level of my body from solid organic matter 3D to bump it up to a fourth dimensional vibration, at least temporarily for these trips, so that I could travel back in time with him. Because you can't travel. What I've learned is you can't travel in time as a 3D person. So on this last trip, he said, all right, you've got a choice this time. You can take this pill or this pill. And if you decide to take the second pill, you will be able to stay in this timeline with these people as a guide, as a mentor for them. And here I am today, back on Earth.
Well, you said you could stay as a guide. How, if you were to choose that, how would you interact with these people? Would it be in the same sense that we have guides now who are in higher dimensions, who we don't necessarily interact with, but they're still here, or would it be in a 3D body?
No, I anticipate, my intuition tells me that what you just described is the role I probably would have taken on. It was probably an opportunity to permanently transmute my body from being 3D to 4D, if I wanted to do that. And it was a choice. I honestly didn't ask him a whole bunch of questions at that time because it was my very first physical experience. Now people may or may not have heard the story before, but keep in mind, at that point, this is summer of 93, I was, 32 or 33 years old. I was just waking up to the reality of extraterrestrial existence and my own role or participation in that reality. So there was still a lot I didn't even know enough to ask about. I was a novice. I was a real newbie. So, and moreover, if you talk to people, friends of mine back then and still friends today, people like Ted Lohman, Jim Nichols, Roger Scher, Bob Dean, Wendell Stevens, and many others that I had met in this area, we didn't start talking about the subject of not only who are they and where are they coming from, but what are they? Most people during the early to mid 90s were still talking about extraterrestrials as three-dimensional people, as in ETs. And only recently, in the past few years, these are the 2000s, only in the past few years have people started talking about, they use terms like EDs, extra-dimensionals, or interdimensionals.
Right.
We talk about people in terms of the higher dimensions, the fourth, the fifth, soul groups, the sixth dimension, the lack of duality. These are all relatively recent terms that people have been picking up in the early to mid 2000s. So back then we were only talking about who were flying UFOs, ETs, where are they from? So, it was still, all I can tell you is that it was very early in my own learning experience. And sometimes, as you can appreciate, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so, to get back to your original question, I didn't know enough to ask him about the details. Well, if I chose to stay, what would my experience be like? All I knew is that I chose to return to Earth, back to this timeline, and that I had a life to continue living. And I guess I imagine to some degree that my returning was important because of the role I'm playing today. Now, I can't say that categorically, but I can tell you this. I've done a whole bunch of growing up as I'm a responsible, I'd like to think balanced, mature man. I've had an opportunity to work on my emotional stuff that I carried forward from early in my life. So I've had an opportunity to do a lot, to grow and to evolve since those early years in 1993. So I guess I'm where I'm supposed to be. I haven't really ever questioned that, but simply that I'm here and I'm living the life I'm supposed to.
Well, I'm right there with you. I've noticed myself making a lot of turns in my journey and coming full circle to certain places that I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Except when you go through that circle, you have that understanding of the experience that you've been on, and so you're able to, even though you're still at the same point as the beginning, you still have this whole new sense of enlightenment, and so you see things from different eyes. It's really difficult for me to explain, but I guess in my experience, I came from the being angry to everything that's going on, to the government conspiracies and so on and so forth, to the complete opposite spectrum, the love and light and living in harmony with everybody, to coming full circle back to that anger, back to seeing everything that's going on. But I have that balance now between the feminine and the masculine, so I can be angry, but I can also have love.
Yeah, I was having a conversation similar to this with a good friend of mine recently, and we got to the place in the conversation where we said, it's okay, wherever anybody is at, and I'm going to use a metaphor right now, as I often do, whether people are at a third grade, if you will, level of emotional growth and or awareness, knowledge. Third grade, fifth grade, ninth grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Some people, 14th grade. It's okay. Wherever any of the people are at, asking the questions that they're asking, there seems to be different sources, out in this new internet space of communication where people like yourself and Tim Bravo and Mark Snyder and Alfred Weber and a lot of others are doing some really valuable work. This space didn't exist years ago, but
right.
There is an appropriate awareness level for everybody.
That is a really great way to put it, Tolec. You're absolutely right. This space, cyberspace, did not exist 30 years ago. Not in the sense that we see it now. And this is, I think, physically how we can see the consciousness shift and how we can physically see moving towards a higher dimension. We've created a whole new world.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to Alex Collier about 3.5, 4 weeks ago. And he said, Tolec, things were so different when I was actively out there speaking. He said, people needed to hear from me because the internet didn't exist. I had to get in front of people. It's like today, it's a whole different world. There are all sorts of people out there.
Absolutely. Tolec, hold that thought. We've got a quick break coming up. But we were talking about Tolec's experience and his awakening and how all of us have made a journey to sometimes come full circle, and how the fourth dimension and fifth dimension beings never actually die. And this actually coincides with a lot of the stuff that we were watching in that film that we were talking about earlier, how they figured out how the mystery schools teach you how to achieve immortality. And there was a certain point in time in the Atlantean era, a certain ascended masters understood immortality and how to achieve it, and instead of dying, what they would do is say, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next plane of existence. And they went whenever they desired, rather than just, boom, dying all of a sudden. I seem to remember a YouTube video, Tolec, where it was a gentleman who was talking about his experience on an aircraft, on a spaceship. And he had photos of Mars, he had photos of the Earth. He had a lot of these photos that he was presenting. Was that Bob Dean?
Tell me about the time frame again.
It seemed to be an old video that was taken off of VHS. And it's a short clip, only about 4 or 5 minutes long, but he was going through this picture collection that he had, and he had pictures of Mars, pictures of the Martian surface, and pictures of some of the moon, from a perspective that you really can't get unless you are on a spaceship looking down on these objects.
Yeah, I seem to remember one presentation that Bob did down here in Tucson, because he's living up in the Phoenix area now, and remember seeing photographs on the back side of the moon. I don't remember anything about Mars in that experience, but
okay.
And I've seen Bob talk a whole bunch of times, and have had a few personal conversations with him as well.
Let me ask you this: is there any way for us regular people, myself, listeners, to contact some of these beings? Is there any type of meditation that can help us achieve something like that?
Oh boy. I honestly think that I need to back up for a moment. I don't, and this is my own personal belief. Okay. I did not at all set out to, I want to contact these extraterrestrials. I have this driving passion. I need to contact ETs. That didn't happen at all. They knocked on my door. They said, hey, we need to talk to you. You need to see something. I went, excuse me? Remember us? Remember me? And, keep in mind, we're talking about a time frame in 1993, which is a full 19 years ago. And yet I still very much remember that experience. So I'm in my early 50s today. I was in my early 30s back then. Brand new at being awakened, but unlike other people today, I didn't have that driving passion back then. I was just waking up myself. So the first part of my answer is they knocked on my door. The second part of my answer, to answer your question, is I don't think the issue is so much about how can I meet extraterrestrials, how can I come in contact with them. I think the first answer that, and again, this is my own personal belief, the first answer that people might pursue is, how can I best evolve? How can I be more informed and truly learn about who I am, where my original soul essence comes from, what star system, what planet, and there are a variety of ways to get some help to do this. But, people are certainly welcome to meditate. I don't meditate. I go out in nature. I'll sit in the back porch. I'll watch the hummingbirds come in and feed off the flowers. I'll take long walks at night, breathe in the sense of nature. I've hiked mountains and hills, been by the ocean a number of times and just took in the totality of the beauty of this planet. So I honestly don't meditate. My growth came through a different path, but I think quiet time, being out in nature, meditation, so that the sum of all those parts, however you get there, gets you to a place where you are a calm, self-aware, mature person, and almost nothing rattles your cage. That's when the people of whatever star system that you're originally from, it's likely that that's the moment in time in your life where you're likely to have contact.
You know, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. Excuse me. It's funny you mentioned that because when I was about 20, I had an abduction experience, and I've talked about it on air. And I had these experiences as a child, and they took me to a psychiatrist, literally, to convince me that these weren't real. And then I forgot all about it, and I was 20 years old, 21, something like that. I was out partying. I was all about the girls. I was all about having fun. Yeah. Didn't have any alien things in my consciousness whatsoever. And then, boom, I have another experience. So you're right. It happens right when you're completely disconnected from it.
Yeah, you know, I don't live, I mean, I spend moments in, wrong word, but here we go. I spend moments in time, my spirit essence, my fourth dimensional body, spends time up on the Andromeda Council meeting for a variety of, up on the Andromeda Council biosphere, the primary one, for a variety of meetings. But I predominantly live my life as a grounded, three-dimensional human. I've had a 30-year career, a 30-year professional career, most recently as the chief operating officer of a small firm. I'm very grounded in terms of living a day-to-day life. And therefore, I can't tell you exactly what goes on all the time in the fourth dimension. It's certainly different. That's for sure. It is different. Their form is different than ours is. It's lighter. It's far less dense. They don't experience time. They do things on an event basis. We have to do this, or we have to do that.
Right.
Or we have to do this next. You know, one event is predicated on the other, but they don't deal with time. It's, other than that, I'm going to have to wait like everybody else until I start living a fourth dimensional life to be able to tell you in detail what it's like.
Well, there is a little bit of timing that they've put in this new document that you sent me. Do you want to go into that a bit?
Yes, I'd like to, please. And I'm going to head into this document from the position of being, just like right now, at least, just like being anybody else out there that should be curious and discerning whenever an alleged or real extraterrestrial group says that they have plans.
I completely agree with you for two reasons. Number one, because the information may or may not be accurate, but number two, you don't know what the agenda of these extraterrestrials are. It could be a nefarious agenda. So I completely agree with you. We've got to use discernment.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There have been a number of people who've written to me about this issue we're going to discuss. And I've always said, in terms of how can people be discerning, this has always been my suggestion. Consider using the totality of who you are. Use your heart, your intuition, your mind, your soul. Listen very, very closely to what any groups are saying. Use, if you will, use the filters of your heart and your intuition, of your mind and soul, to determine if what you're hearing from these various groups comes from a place of love. Now, I'll talk about this a little bit. As an example, if the things they're talking about and recommending, would they be the kind of things that, you or Sherry would feel comfortable exposing any of your family members, your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, anyone that you care deeply about, would you feel comfortable exposing this information to them? And if the information they're sharing happened not to come from an ET source, would their information or recommendations come from a loving place? These are the first questions that I ask when I'm trying to discern what some group is telling people. You know, would the information be helpful, but would it be non-biased to the degree that the provider of the information wouldn't have its own agenda? That's a big one for me. Would the information empower people? Would it empower each Earth human to have not only greater information, which becomes knowledge, but would it resonate with you? Would it finally become wisdom? And I firmly believe that these are the kinds of best, if you will, best in class measurement tools. And the best filter is the one of love. Use the filter of love to determine if the information that you're listening to is right for you, regarding any of the various ET groups and what they're saying. And it's, you know, it's all on, of course, everything I just said is on a person by person basis. Every person has their own level of awareness, and I would ask everybody to do whatever research they feel is necessary for them. Always do your research. Ask hard questions. Same thing of me. And if any of you have hard questions of me, I will answer them. If I don't have an answer, I'll tell you that. Life's too short. It really is. But getting to this document that I sent you, this document is essentially a transcript of information that was covered in a breaking news story by Jeffrey West, who I happen to like a lot. And Jeffrey's guests were Steve Beckow, Dave Schmidt, who are both known to be associated with the Galactic Federation of Light, and a woman by the name of Sierra Neblina, who's known as some kind of Pleiadian contactee with, quote-unquote, the Pleiadian High Council. And it seems that this document was released as a postscript, if you will, to a 2 or 3 hour interview and conversation that Jeffrey West had yesterday with these people. And they were talking about the Olympic Games that were starting in London and an unusual meeting that was held among some people with the Pleiadian High Council and the Queen of England and some other high government ranking officials. Now, they didn't release those names, and it's no biggie. There were some issues that were raised in the overall discussion and some questions that were addressed. And you've seen the document that I sent you. Again, simply, it's a transcript of what was discussed yesterday. So I heard this conversation, and then I read the transcript, and all of a sudden, there were certain issues that started to stand out that as somebody who, if you will, pays attention to what's going on out there, and I don't do it a lot. I typically keep my nose to the ground and I do my Tolec work. But I happened to catch this broadcast because I like Jeffrey West. And the more I listened, the more these issues started to pop out. I had never heard of the Pleiadian family of light before, but I was certainly aware of Steve Beckow and Dave Schmidt and their affiliation with the Galactic Federation of Light, who Sheldon Neidl and Salu Sa also write for. Back in the early to mid-90s, they went by the Galactic Confederation of Light. They go by the GFOL. They go by the GFL. And strangely enough, sometimes they call themselves the Galactic Federation, which I've never understood because that's not who they are. And I'll get into some of that in a little while, but I wanted to focus on some of the things that I highlighted for you. Words that for me, as somebody who's interested in this subject matter of, okay, somebody says they're going to come visit with us. All right, well, who are they? Where do they come from? Do they have an agenda? And using those thoughts as critical moments or critical means of thinking, certain issues started to come up. And I'll just read the tidbits that I've highlighted. They said in second paragraph, furthermore, it has been decided that we will make full contact with Earth beings in 8 days from this transmission on August 4th, 2012 at the World Olympic Games in London. It has been decided. Well, who decided? Galactic intervention has been ordered. Who ordered it? Who ordered intervention? I'm asking questions. That's all I'm doing right now. Other sections. Second page of this document says, we will instruct you not to spread fear. We will instruct you? Why would anybody bring up the issue of fear except to possibly introduce it?
Right.
Then they said, this is no false flag. Why would even somebody address it? Again, I'm just asking questions. I'm asking questions from my job. I'm asking questions as somebody, I guess, who's pretty intelligent and who's been following this, certainly the overall context of extraterrestrial contact, which, I'm certainly one person who's aware of this issue quite acutely, actually. What are some of the other issues? They said, and I think page 3, there is absolutely no need for anxiety. Why would somebody introduce that thought? Next paragraph. We told you on July 4th, Independence Day, that the physical and non-physical cabal was removed, and so it is.
I don't see that as fact.
Really? They've removed every single aspect of the physical and non-physical cabal? Have they really? This is news for me.
Yeah, you've got the Queen of England dancing around with a giant version of the Grim Reaper while simultaneously jumping out of an airplane with James Bond. I don't think it can get any more cabalish than
absolutely.
It is
a few
right
paragraphs down beyond that. There will be a true display of light and sound energy. Do not fear this. Why do they even bring this up? 2 paragraphs later, we've been in negotiations with your leaders, ... We are now going to force this to happen for the highest good because there is no time left. Who told them to say there is no time left? No time left to what? I mean, I know what they're talking about. They're talking about our planet is on a path for evolution and upliftment, migration to the 4th and to some degree the 5th dimension. We at the very first iteration, at least everything I've been taught is that this solar system and this planet will vibrate at a new higher frequency of the 4th dimension, January 2014. So these people say, we're going to force this to happen. They're talking about contact for the highest good because there is no time left.
Forget
really?
Contact.
Really? There's no time left?
Right, exactly.
Says who?
I think we have all the time in the world to get rid of this drought that we've been having. And I heard that the extraterrestrials have the kind of technology that we need to bring us rain. So let's get on the ball with that. Screw the disclosure. I don't care about that. I think it's time to start healing the planet, healing us.
Right. And a major piece of the agenda of this document is disclosure. A couple paragraphs down, it says, in 8 days, the world, all G20 leaders will announce us, and we will appear, or they will not, and we will appear anyway. Really? All the G20 leaders are going to announce.
Right.
Right. So somebody's got a disclosure agenda here. My my thoughts on that. Those leaders opposed will be removed. Really?
By who?
Who's going to remove them? So I'm just pointing out things that they've said. I'm raising questions, and of course I'm concerned. I'm concerned by what I'm seeing. all debts of the people of Earth will be forgiven? Says who?
According to Goldman Sachs or...
Well, I can tell you categorically that based on everything that I've learned over years, the good ETs, the benevolent ETs, they don't get involved in our Earth stuff.
Right.
This is our problem.
Mm-hmm.
All debts of the people of Earth will be removed. Really? And who's doing this? So I know those are just the highlights, but those are the things that stood out for me. This document is available online. I honestly forgot where I got it, except to tell you that a friend of mine sent it to me this morning. And I had heard this interview yesterday. And I want to, first of all, I want to open up, to both of you any questions about any of the issues that I've raised, and we can certainly talk about them. But, at the end of this conversation, this interview yesterday, I'd like to address a topic that, Steve Beckhow absolutely danced around. And he has the prerogative to not answer the question, but I want to get into it in detail. And people have asked me over and over and over again, hey, Tolec, we're a little confused here. We keep hearing about the Galactic Federation of Light. They're calling themselves the Galactic Federation. And what's the difference? And Steve Beckhow basically said, well, I don't believe there's any difference. There is a difference. And I want to take some time to cover the distinct differences so that people clearly understand that unequivocally there is a distinct difference between the Galactic Federation of Light and the original Galactic Federation.
It sounds to me like a New World Order type scenario happening in a higher dimension, as above, so below.
Well, this broadcast yesterday, and again, I like Jeffrey West a lot. I enjoyed my time with him when he interviewed me on the topic of disclosure. But this was a Galactic Federation and or Galactic Confederation of Light 3-hour show, essentially. And there was a woman who called in and asked Steve the question, what's the difference? And he said, essentially said, I don't believe there's any real difference. And I can tell you, there are a number of differences, and I can get through them bullet point. It won't take me a long time. But if you have questions before we dive into this, or anything you want to discuss, let's go.
No. Take us away. I'm just reading through this document, and it doesn't seem right to me. There's something about it. Maybe the energy that's resonating from it, but it seems...
Understand that we cannot wait any longer, and we are only stepping in to help. They don't step in if they're good. They don't step in to help.
I mean, there's a lot of things here that I agree with. The galactic intervention has been ordered for the following reasons. Sophia Gaia's sickness has reached a critical stage and must be cleaned up at once. Yeah, she is very, very sick. I don't know. Take us away.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, I want to discuss these things. The evolution of this planet, quite honestly, Gaia is a strong, strong female energy. And she can self-clean. She can self-evolve. Gaia doesn't need the help of the Galactic Federation of Light to evolve. And the energy that she's receiving as this solar system and this planet is about to cross the galactic equatorial plane is healing, and it's transformative.
I think there is a certain breaking point, though. Take a look at Mars, for instance, which was once habitable and lush, full of life, and now it's just a red ball of nothing. At least what we've been told.
Right. I understand there's life on Mars, in bases, underground.
Right.
Or at least there has been. A lot of that's been removed. But yeah, it's just there are a lot of issues here that my warning bells went off, and I thought that they needed to address. And they're issues for me, but again, I would ask anybody to use the filters of your heart, your mind, your soul. Ask whatever questions are important for all of you out there to see if this information rings true for you. If it does, great. If maybe it does, that's great too. And if it really doesn't, that's okay too. But it's for everybody to determine on their own whether this information is accurate for them or not. For me, it raised flags, and I wanted to take some time, among other things, to discuss them. In terms of Gaia, this beautiful planet, we as a human race inhabiting this planet have not treated her well or with respect at all.
Right.
In comparison, as an example, I have already been informed that the people who will decide to choose to go to an alternate Earth, an alternate 3D world.
Well, you know what? Hold that thought until the other. Tolec, where would you like to take it from here?
Well, when we stopped for the break, I was talking about the fact that we as at least modern society, probably within the past, I don't know, let's call it 100 years at minimum, we've not been good to planet Earth. We've polluted, we've dumped. I think the height of arrogance and ignorance has been nuclear bomb testing, severely harmful to this planet by any measure. We dump garbage, trash, waste into the environment, and we clearly have ways today of turning that waste into energy. I know that my own hometown back east has a power to energy plant.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. Garbage and trash doesn't need to be dumped in a landfill.
Right.
It doesn't, Mother Earth doesn't need any more pollution. It doesn't need any more toxicity. And I was leading up to the fact that for the people who want to continue to have this 3D dense organic matter life that we have today, this current version of human life, there's going to be an alternate, very virgin, actually, 3-dimensional world that doesn't have any people on it. It's got a few animals, but no people. It is Earth-like. And as a metaphor, with the Milky Way galaxy as like a pinwheel, our solar system and Earth is down like at around the tip of an arm, like at around 7 o'clock. And this new alternate Earth, this new alternate 3D Earth, is up at around 10 o'clock within the Milky Way galaxy. And people can choose, if they want to move there, to continue their 3D lives, because if they're on planet Earth come January 2014, they're going to become 4D people. It's the evolution of this planet and this solar system to move to its next level of vibrational life.
Let me ask you this.
Why am I, and let me finish this thought if I may, why am I addressing this? It's important because there are certain guidelines, parameters, and protocols for the people that will move there, such that there will be none of the following allowed. No toxic dumping, no creation of toxic wastes, no depositing of litter, trash, plastics, or garbage into the environment. There'll be no stripping of natural resources of this new planet. This new planet has been chosen for the people of Earth as a place that they can continue to live their 3-dimensional lives, and it's a gift. And therefore, they will also have enough clean technologies that there should not be any reasons for polluting this new planet. None at all. So the new planet is not going to go the way of Earth. It's not going to be exposed to the kind of toxins and wastes that we've exposed it to in the past years of the industrial age.
if we're going to move into the fourth dimension on December 23rd or December 22nd,
nope, I didn't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. What date did you say?
January 2014.
January 2014. Okay.
Right.
If we do that, what can we experience as three-dimensional beings?
Fun question. Alrighty. I'll first give a comparison. A third-dimensional person is carbon-based. We are slow and dense. We are made of organic matter, sinew, muscle, blood, bones, skin. It's a slow, dense vibration. Comparatively, fourth-dimensional people are made of crystalline, fine essence matter as compared to organic matter that we're made of today. We can expect to be, at least the men can expect to be 7'2", 7'4", 7'6", 7'8", on average. The women, 6'2", 6'4", on average.
Okay, that coincides with the emerald tablets, if I remember correctly.
Is this the Thoth material?
Yes.
From ancient Egypt?
Yes. It broke down
okay.
the
a friend of mine just told me about that. Just within the past couple of weeks.
Oh yeah. It's that third dimension beings are usually 5 foot, 6 foot. Fourth dimension is 6, 7 foot. The fifth dimensional beings get up to, I want to say something like 12, 13 feet, and then higher. I mean, it gets up to 35, 40 feet. And it also broke down a lot of the statues that are over there in Egypt. And showed that these statues were actual representations of these people because they had ascended to these higher dimensions and therefore their physical bodies grew.
Yeah, I heard it. I just within the past week, I was speaking with Sanath of the Silver Legion, and she told me about a fifth dimensional being that they were interacting with who's 15 feet tall. So, sure. But yeah, these are definitely differences between and I use them just for all the people out there that are curious. I use the terms density or dimension interchangeably. I'm not a scientist. I don't want to get into that discussion or that debate. But in any case, 3D versus 4D, carbon, organic, slow and dense, 4D, crystalline, fine essence matter, and spirit-based. This is where life of the spiritual worlds begin. This is actually when people start talking about, oh, I'm becoming more spiritual. Well, people may be evolving, but you don't actually become spiritual, literally, until you begin living a fourth dimensional life. Now, in comparison, the people that I talk with regularly, the commander of the primary Andromeda Council biosphere, Ambassador Tanka, who's the spiritual sage, the advisor from whom a lot of wisdom flows about the creator and creation. Tanya, the vice chairwoman of the Andromeda Council. Diplomat Maka. They've all become good friends of mine. All of these people have always lived their lives as fourth dimensional humans. Which means they've not ever incarnated, which also means they've not been born to a 3D body on Earth or some other place. So it actually takes me some considerable explaining sometime when I'm sharing with them certain concepts, 3D concepts on Earth. I have to do a lot of explaining so they can put it into terms that they get, because, as an example, they don't deal with money. They don't deal with time. So it takes some considerable explaining whenever those two issues come up.
And so these are actual beings that are here on this earth now.
No.
Okay.
Maka, Tanka, the commander of the primary Andromeda Council biosphere, Tanya, and others, all, at least these days, they all work and live inside the primary Andromeda Council biosphere. And if anybody's interested and they haven't heard me talk on this subject before, there's an interview I did with a really good guy named by the name of Tim Bravo, and he does a show called Extraordinary Year. The archive is on the AndromedaCouncil.com website, and I talk at length about all 12 Andromeda Council biospheres. There's also a written transcript on the archive page, so people can go read a written piece of paper about that interview. But I get into a lot of details about the Andromeda Council biospheres. So to get back to your question, they all live and work inside the primary Andromeda Council biosphere, which is 26 stories. It has gardens, parks, hills. It has lakes, which are swimming ponds. It's got a few restaurants. Inside the major restaurant, there's a pub. I had a fun time introducing the concept of pool tables and dartboards to these guys, and they're having a lot of fun with those. So they are complete living environments. They'd look like if anybody who travels for business or anywhere today would go to like a 5-star resort that has grass and hills and palm trees and things inside the resort. That's very much what it's like. These guys have a really good quality of life. And somebody once asked me, well, does it get dark there? Well, yeah, what they do is they simulate daylight and nighttime by basically drawing down the lights at night. They have an artificial morning and an artificial evening by basically turning all the lights off at night.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
Somebody's asking
Go
for clarification. Did you say Toka, T-O-K-A?
Tanka.
Tanka, okay.
Tanka, T-A-N-K-A. And the name sounds Native American because Tanka, Maka, the commander from the primary Andromeda Council biosphere, and some other folks, they all come from the planet Dakote, which is in the Taygeta star system, which is one of the stars, the 7 stars of the Pleiades. There are 4 planets in the Taygeta star system. Dakote, the second largest, it's the senior homeworld, if you will. Vela, Pyra, and Erra. And Erra is the planet the Semyasi was from the Billy Meyer contact case. So these people are from the planet Dakote, which is actually the planet of origin for the Native Americans in this country known as the Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, the Hopi, the Apache, the Comanche, and many, many others in the western states, what Native people call Grandmother or Turtle Island. It's the home planet for these people. And the people of the Pleiades have always had a long-standing helpful role in the Andromeda Council. They don't have a formal position, but as you've seen, some of their people work for the Council on the primary Andromeda Council biosphere. Long answer, but that's the answer.
Let's talk about, if you don't mind, if you want to get into this, let's talk about the West Coast.
The West Coast of the U.S.
Yes. You were telling me off air about some events that could possibly come to pass in the West Coast. And I know that we can't talk about too much of the details, but whatever we can discuss, I would love to discuss that.
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to. And actually, I, as people will observe, I haven't done any interviews in basically, it's a good month and a couple weeks, because the nature of my work is changing. I'm in transition, and that necessitates me doing different things. But I've had a lot of people who are asking, Tolec, what's going on? When are Ambassador Tanka, Diplomat Maka, Vice Chairwoman Tanya, they're supposed to be here soon. They were supposed to arrive at the end of springtime. It's summer. Where are they? What's going on? When are they going to arrive? And so what I'm about to tell you is relevant to that information. As you and I discussed back at the very end of March and early April, there was, it's still, It still exists. It just hasn't been destroyed yet. There was a Draco and Hydra reptilian undersea base that was taken control of, cleared out, and cleaned up in the last weekend of March. And people had asked about the destruction of that base, and the answer to the destruction of that base is there will be a cosmic event. And now I'm going to tie all the pieces together. The cosmic event is the arrival of an asteroid that is coming into our solar system right now. It's about 6 miles long by 10 miles wide. It has a silver glow around it, about 20 miles in diameter, and a silver tail. And the people of the Andromeda Council, using Andromedan planetarial language, T-E-R-I-A-L, call it Uskarnata. It stands for either silver streak or silver glow because of the coloring of this asteroid that people will see when it goes past Earth space. The arrival of this asteroid is going to do a couple of things. Well, first of all, I'm going to clarify, it's not going to hit Earth. They've told me that it will fly by at approximately a distance of 450,000 miles from the Earth's surface. Where it flies by, it will do some little shake, rattle, and roll of the Earth's surface, which will include some earthquakes, undersea quakes, tremors. It will cause magma, lava flow, the release of tectonic energy. It will also bring in, it's going to, I'm trying to find the right word here, usher in, if you will, a new vibrational energy to bring us that much closer to fourth dimensional existence. It's also going to be pretty much the trigger event for the beginning of a lot of additional larger scale Earth changes on this planet. Well, it seems that the first event will be the triggering of this volcano that's about roughly 150 miles off the coast of southern Oregon. The volcano's going to pop. That will trigger a couple of earthquakes to happen. There'll be some size wave event that will hit the Oregon coast. It's known to cause some flooding up and through the Portland area. As people talk about these things, will it be catastrophic? No. I do know that there are other events coming after this. I've been told there are other events coming after this. But this first event will be the trigger, if you will, to release enough magma, lava flow, energy release to travel through certain geographic land areas, which will actually cause the destruction of the last reptilian undersea base. Those are all the major pieces. After that happens, Ambassador Tanka, Diplomat Maka, and Vice Chairwoman Tanya, sometime soon after that event, they will arrive quietly here on Earth. They'll be speaking with the Lakota and Dakote people, and they will then start basically touring the U.S. And when I say tour, don't think of a rock tour. It's going to be relatively quiet. Out of the way locations, preferably outside suburban, more preferably rural. And they'll start in the Southwest. They'll hit spots all throughout the Southwest. They'll go to California. They'll head north. They'll hit Washington, Oregon. They'll hit all of the western states, head east, come through the center of the country, the Midwest. They'll visit and speak with people throughout the Northeast, then head south to the Mid-Atlantic states, stopping there, spending time with people, visiting there. And the last spot will be the deep south and the mid-south, like the Louisianas, Alabamas, and Texases of the world. They will be the last stops for the U.S. Then they'll go to Canada and Alaska, and the rest of that list is on the Andromeda Council contact page. There's a list of the priority order of which countries that these people will visit, and immediately following them will be the people from the 4 Andromeda Council planets. And even that will be informal. People from these planets will be walking around visiting with people. Very, very informal, very low-key. The whole idea is to meet people, to reintroduce themselves, to answer questions, inform people to whatever degree they want to be informed, but very informal, relatively passive.
Well, this information about the West Coast and Portland, it kind of raised the hairs on the back of my neck yesterday when you were telling me. And I know I shared this with you and off air, but I had an interaction with the source, with the universe, the universal energy, and I was kind of asking for guidance on which way to go. And we've been talking about moving to Portland for the past 3 or 4 months, maybe not that long, maybe past 2 or 3 months. But anyways, I heard a very distinct voice telling me, do not go to Portland. You have to stay in Colorado. You have to stay because there's going to be an event and you need to be in Colorado. It didn't say what kind of event. It didn't say there'll be destruction here. It didn't say any, I mean, the event that it could have been talking about could have been just me meeting somebody here. But it's funny that you mentioned this because it reaffirms what this voice was telling me, not too long ago.
Yeah. I go over all of this information on the fact page, frequently asked questions page of the Andromeda Council website, but this is the first time I've weaved it all together. This event will be relatively minor compared to other events that are coming. You know, people have written to me. I've got thousands. People have written to me about a wide variety of questions, including Earth changes. I cover all of that on the first page of the website, but suffice it to say that this planet will continue to go through change. One example of this is, I think just within the past week and a half to 2 weeks, India, the India region has been flooded. They released information that indicates that 6 million people have been displaced due to monsoon flooding in India.
Right. Yeah.
6 million! That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, and I only bring this issue up to say things are happening on this planet. This planet is going through change. It'll continue to go through change.
Well, Thailand was recently underwater, and you didn't hear the mainstream media reporting on it.
I didn't know about this,
yes.
But I'm not surprised given where they're located.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've certainly heard that Indonesia, Micronesia, the island countries are at the greatest risk as all of these changes continue to happen. Yeah. But
it's
again,
really amazing how things have shifted, how regions that are typically dry and don't have any rain are getting flooded, and then the regions that usually have relatively good rain are experiencing droughts right now. Any ideas or information on a coming pole shift or maybe a current pole shift that we're experiencing now?
Yeah, sure. The pole shift that I learned of is coming, and everything that my Andromeda Council contacts have shared with me indicates that whatever electromagnetic pole shift happens, because right now we're not talking about geophysical pole shift. We're talking only about magnetic, North Pole, South Pole. They've said that what we consider to be the magnetic North Pole today, which exists certainly off-center, up at the top of our globe, it's going to switch, and it's going to be located at the bottom of our planet. And likewise, what we know to be the magnetic South Pole is going to switch and it will be located on the top of our planet. But they've also told me that this event in and of itself is not going to be that disruptive. They said, look for 3 hours, 4 hours, maybe some minor electrical problems. If there are any major ones, they've got the engineering biosphere on standby to do any repair. So they're ready for it, but they really don't expect any major ramifications.
Tolec, we touched upon this document here, and we talked about the 2012 Olympics and how this document basically outlines that they plan to make contact within the next 8 days and make an appearance at the 2012 Olympics. And some of the wording, like you pointed out, we instruct you not to spread fear, as many still do. This is no false flag, but an actual event that will take place, and it comes only from good and for good. People have been speculating about Operation Bluebeam, which is a staged alien invasion, and how the 2012 Olympics is a perfect venue for doing something like this. And I don't know if you remember back in, I want to say 83 or 84, could be a few years off on the date, but they actually staged a UFO landing during the Olympic ceremony, and it was all a hologram, all holographic technology. But could this document be circulating in preparation for something like that?
I don't know. I don't know exactly why they released the document. I mean, it is like any other interviews that some people do. There are transcripts, and so and I've certainly done transcripts as a result of probably like 90% of the interviews that I've done. So that's certainly a plausible explanation. But I'm with you on this one. I tend to believe that there's an agenda here, and I do believe that any possible UFOs that might be seen, if they happen, they would probably be holographic in nature. And if there are any landings, I would highly doubt that they are extraterrestrial-based UFOs, but rather physical Earth-based UFOs that are made to look like extraterrestrial. Because there have been certainly enough conversations and enough research out there that indicates that certain powers have captured and back-engineered a number of scout craft UFOs, whatever you want to call them. So they exist. And who's to say somebody wouldn't take any one of those and use it in a landing ceremony and have some ETs walk out? I'm skeptical. That's my position. I'm skeptical.
I'm right there with you. I always take this information with a grain of salt and try to use my discernment. Like you said earlier, we never know what the agenda is. It could be misinformation, disinformation. It could be nefarious information. Or it could be completely accurate. We never know.
Oh, yeah, it certainly could be accurate, but the words, as long as we're going back to this document for a few moments before we wrap, the words that in this document that stood out for me, that gave me some level of concern, even if I step out of my Tolec role and I just go, oh, okay, I'm an interested U.S. citizen who's curious about any extraterrestrials and when they may be visiting with us, for a group to say, it has been decided that we will, it has been ordered. Who decided? Who ordered? We instruct you not to spread fear. This is no false flag. Again, the benevolent ETs don't speak this way. They wouldn't bring up the issue of fear. They wouldn't bring up the issue of this is or is not a false flag. They would just speak their truth and come visit and be open and share what they know with people.
You know, it's funny because when people tell me, well, I'm going to be honest with you, blah, 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 blah. The first thing that I think to myself is, so you were going to lie to me first, but then you decided to be honest? The wording in this document has the same type of vibe, the same type of tone to it.
Right. And there are other paragraph introductions. There is absolutely no need for anxiety. Why would you introduce that topic?
Right.
And the winner for me was, we told you on July 4th, Independence Day, that the physical and non-physical cabal was removed. Really? I mean, that one stretches all boundaries of truth, because as anybody, I think as any, and I say with this, including me, as any common man in this country and Canada and anywhere around the world, the cabal is still, at least the human portion of the cabal at the top of the power structure is still doing its thing. Now, they may be last gasp breath, trying to hold on as much as possible, but they're still around. So
I think we are seeing the death throes of the New World Order, though, and the powers that be, especially with it as heavy as they're hitting with the totalitarianism. I mean, they are trying in desperation to do anything they can to maintain their power, maintain their control through this consciousness shift. But I think that they're fighting a futile fight, because we will prevail in the end, and Gaia, Mother Earth, will prevail in the end. I mean, short of us detonating some kind of weapon that just completely knocks out all life and takes it back to a Mars-type state. But I don't see that in the cards.
No, I don't see that coming. They've told me, my Andromeda Council contacts have told me and shown me time and time again that this is going to be a beautiful new world, a beautiful new Earth, a beautiful new Terra. We'll have higher dimensional life forms that we've never seen before, because we haven't vibrated at that level. The plants and all of nature is going to vibrate at a higher level, so therefore the colors are going to be crisper. It's going to be a beautiful new world. So,
let me go to a couple of questions from the chat room. Somebody asked if you have any insight on the solar activity right now. The sun seems to be heating up, going through cycles and whatnot. Ed Dames has talked about a solar flare hitting us. Brooks Agnew also talked about the possibility of that and knocking out all of the technology and basically pushing us back to the Stone Age, to where we're rubbing two sticks together to make fire. Any thoughts on the sun cycle?
Yeah, I can tell you that there's a gentleman down in Australia who runs a website called solarwatch.net, and he has indicated that because of current solar activity going on right now, that it will cause tectonic adjustments and vibrations to the point where he expects a major earthquake to hit relatively off of the same area of the southern Oregon coast that I've been talking about. That's basically scheduled to have this cosmic event of this asteroid to come by, which will trigger the volcano. So there are a lot of things that are contributing to all of the changes on this planet, and the sun is going through its own adjustment. But that having been said, our people have said that they've done a few things quite a few times to either deflect or diffuse some of the more severe solar flares. So we're okay. We're going to be all right. We're not going to burn up in a ball of flame due to a solar flare. I guess that's the bottom line.
Here's another question. I'm just going to read it word for word. It says, another question for Tolec. I know about the spirals in the sky, and he said that was just pieces of energy wave hitting their planet. But what was the light over India that basically floated shouting slowly across the sky?
I don't know. I've actually never heard of that event. I just don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that either, but I'm going to look that up for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight on the spirals that we saw a few years back?
only to the degree of what my Andromeda Council contacts have told me. There's vibrational change going on, not only on this planet's surface, but throughout the whole solar system. And they've simply shared with me that these are energy vortexes that open and close. That's the best explanation that they could give me for my non-scientific brain. I tend to not focus on phenomenon like these unless they have a direct impact on us and our planet.
Well, having these vortices opening and closing, is that a sign of anything to come? Is that a sign that we are at a certain state energetically?
I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's. I honestly don't know if it's relevant to our own the raising of the vibration in this solar system and on this planet. I don't know if it's relevant. I know there are a lot of things that are relevant that have to do with energies that include medium-sized quakes, major quakes, the timing of those quakes. Those are indicative of change on this planet, of rising vibration, of continued change. That I can tell you. That's primarily how we can measure the rate of change on this planet, by the frequency of all of the earthquakes that have been happening, and they'll continue to be more frequent.
Another interesting question here, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, but why would we just want to bail out and ascend to 4D and 5D without bringing some kind of justice to this plane of existence?
Wait, this is a question from a writer?
Yes. Okay. From one
of
the listeners.
Why would the collective, I take it, collective we means the citizens of Earth?
Yes. In general, why would we want to ascend to 4D and 5D without first bringing justice to this plane of existence? My answer to that would be that when you reach the higher states of existence, then the negative and positive energy balances itself out, and there's no need to physically bring justice onto the people that have harmed the majority of the people here, because the cosmos, the universe, the energetic force behind everything will bring that justice and bring that balance as it comes.
I certainly think that's partially accurate. We on this planet have had to deal with, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but it's worth mentioning because it's relevant. We've had to deal with two races called the Draco and Hydra reptilians, who've done a whole bunch of things, including using negative energy transponders on places like Southeast Asia, the mainland China, the Middle East, to cause anger, confusion, disruption, feeling of isolation, control on the populace of those land masses. The reptilians have done this with their underground bases and their undersea bases for years. So why is that relevant? Well, the people in the Andromeda Council have taken out all of these bases. As we talked about, the last base is going to be destroyed sometime soon. And the 2,000 plus reptilian Illuminati military officials and officers, they were sent to the Andromeda Council primary biosphere for trial for their war crimes against humanity. They are fourth dimensional beings. There are fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional beings, as well as third dimensional beings, all on this primary Andromeda Council biosphere. So there is still justice as it has to do with negativity and duality in the fourth dimension. That's formal. That I'm aware of. I know that we're starting to run out of time, but I wanted to, if I can, address this information because though Steve Beckow didn't answer this question, I want to answer this question, and I want to point out the distinct differences between the Galactic Federation of Light, known originally as the Galactic Confederation of Light, known as the GFOL and the GFL, any one of those, as compared to the original Galactic Federation. Will you give me like 10 minutes to go through that?
Take us away.
Okay, cool. Think, first of all, for distinction, and they've said this over and over again, the Galactic Federation of Light, by all the names that I gave you, is said to be based in the Sirius, S-I-R-I-U-S, Sirius B star system. The original Galactic Federation is based in the Tau Ceti star system. So, quite plainly, for distinction purposes, they are based in two wholly different star systems. So now I'm going to give some considerable detail on the original Galactic Federation based in the Tau Ceti star system. The Galactic Federation is definitively aligned with the Andromeda Council. Itself, it is the 10th senior chaired member of the Andromeda Council. The Galactic Federation is the 10th senior chaired member of the Andromeda Council. Think of it as the Andromeda Council's operational management company that is responsible for day-to-day management of the, let's call them cooperative protocols for intergalactic, interstellar, interplanetary trade, barter, exchange of natural resources, products, services, intersocietal, intercultural, educational interchange and exchange among all of the planets of the Galactic Federation and its governing body, the Andromeda Council. This original Galactic Federation is comprised of about 140 star systems and at present 300 planets. For anybody that's ever spoken about the Galactic Federation as a body, you will notice that these numbers are pretty consistent. They've always been spoken of as being of 140 star systems and roughly 300 planets. That's true today. The Galactic Federation itself has its own sitting council of 5 people. The Federation's lead planet is Zeta, spelled Xeta. It's led by the chairman from the Tau Ceti star system, and his name is Pa-Al. P is in Peter, A. There's a space, and then like the word all, A-L-L. The 5 members of the Galactic Federation board are Commander Tai. He is male. He is the commander of the best way to pronounce this is XYC. People could think of it as the letters XYC, but it's pronounced XYC. Space exploration vehicle. The second council member is the Medical Admiral Freecall. She's a woman, and she's from the Galactic Federation's Medical Planetary Observatory Station. The third member is President Mika. He is male. He's a member of the Galactic Federation Educational Observation Board. The fourth person is a senior xenobiologist, a woman by the name of Pram, P-R-A-M. And the fifth person is the Galactic Federation Diplomacy Relations person, and his name is Adriel, A-D-R-I-A-L. These are the 5 people that make up the Galactic Federation's own board. These are the details of the Galactic Federation based in the Tau Ceti star system, directly aligned with the Andromeda Council, and not out of Sirius B. Sirius B is the home of the Galactic Federation of Light. I don't know if you can get these kinds of details from the people of the Galactic Federation of Light. I would encourage everybody to ask them if they want to. But I am definitely planting the flag on this one. There is a difference. There are 2 organizations. And I will stand on this point probably to the day I lose this body. So I appreciate you letting me get through this. Do you have any questions about this at all?
People are asking what your website is.
Okay. The website is AndromedaCouncil.com, and it's spelled A-N as in Nancy, D-R-O-M-E-D-A, Council, C-O-U-N-C-I-L. And the information that I just went through in great detail is the second page, which is called, I'll click on it right now. It's called AndromedaCouncil.com/about, ABOUT.html. You know, if anybody wants to go and read all the details that I just went through, it's all there for people in black and light blue, along with some colors and some pictures as well.
Very nice. Where can people find the document, too, that we've been discussing?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for reminding me. I forget which number page it is, but there is an archived interviews page. And on that archived interviews page, on the left-hand side, is a section called Written Reports. And the name of the document that outlines all the stuff I just went through is called Setting the Record Straight. And people can download it.
You know what? Do me a favor. Drop me a link to that in Skype after the show or whenever, so I can add it in the show description.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay. Very good.
Yep.
Very good. So we've talked about this new document and how it seems nefarious. Have you received any new information regarding the future from entities that you believe are benevolent or that you have trusted to give you accurate information in the past? Or can you not discuss that yet?
Yeah, oh no, it's okay. People can find it on the last page of the Andromeda Council website, the FAQ Frequently Asked Questions page. But I'm happy to touch on it. Basically, they'll find that there is a consistent history of, at least a consistent recent history of earthquakes. Mid-June, early July, 2 additional earthquakes a little bit farther south, out undersea off the Oregon coast. These earthquakes are indicative of the buildup that's going on in this area, of the tectonic movement, of the movement of molten lava underneath the planet's surface. There's also outgassing from lava vents that have shown up in exactly the same area, about 150 miles off the southern Oregon coast, that popped up on U.S. satellites recently. I'm bringing this information all to the front because it's indicative of the fact that the things that they've told me that are going to happen that will lead up to the final cosmic event, at least what we've called the cosmic event, which is the asteroid coming in, the triggering of the volcano to go off, which will trigger subsequent earthquakes. All of that information is indicative of this event that's coming. And they've said basically we should look for that event to happen in another couple of weeks or so. So we're looking at a near-term event coming off the Oregon coast with this volcano popping.
Wow.
So we're not that far down the road.
We'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they said they'll keep their promise, and that Ambassador Tanka, Diplomat Maka, Vice Chairwoman Tanya will start to visit the people of the U.S., then the people of Canada, and then the rest of the countries that are on that list relatively soon after this cosmic event happens. So it's good. 2012 is going to continue to be a really busy year.
It has been very, very interesting up to this point, and it's funny to be on the precipice of December 21st, and we've talked about it for years and years and years, and I remember first hearing about it back in, I want to say 1999, 2000, when YouTube was still YouTube, and it wasn't owned by Google, and you can actually find good videos on there because they wouldn't skew the view counts or anything like that, and it was a big topic, and I remember there was so much time back then so much time to get to here, and now
there's actually something significant about December 21st. And I spent, this is one of those, I asked them 3 times, when I hear information, and I go, really? And they're like, yes. And then they show me the best they can. They've said that this moment in time of December 21st will actually be the moment when what we've known as the experience of and the measurement of time on this planet will begin to go away. Now, I'm not saying that it will cease to exist on that day, but the experience of and measurement of time, the way we've gotten used to it, is definitely going to change. And it will start to diminish considerably. When will we experience no time? I don't know yet. But it's coming. It's coming. The closer we get to fourth dimensional life, the closer we will have this experience of no time. Of course, January 2014 hits. We become a fourth dimensional world. No time is part of that.